Longoria, Greve, and I'm the president of Oklahomans for Vaccine and Health Choice. And we are here today for our second annual Health Freedom Rally. Give yourself a good round of applause. Before I introduce our guest speaker, I want you all to do something for me. Please put your hand on your child, and if your child or children are not here, please put your hand on your heart and repeat after me. This child belongs to me. I am responsible for the upbringing and health of this child. My child is not government property. Nor am I. I call the shots. Amen. Speaking of the government, have you heard what's going on behind closed doors at the CDC? Have you seen the film Vaxxed? If you have not, you must. It lays out some of the problems that our organization is concerned about. We are calling for the following: going back to the single doses of the MMR, repeal the National Vaccine Injury Act of 1986 that took away liability from pharmaceutical companies to be sued by those that were injured or killed by vaccines. Thirdly, we're calling for the FDA to categorize vaccines like other drugs and to improve the safety and testing of vaccines. And lastly, we're calling for Congress to subpoena Dr. William Thompson, the CDC whistleblower that is. And with that, I would like to introduce you to the producer of Vaxxed, so he can share not only about the movie, but about the movement that is going around the nation. This movie is not just about forced vaccinations, and our movement is not just about forced vaccinations, it's about informed consent. Please give a great round of applause, Oklahoma round of applause, to Bigtree.
Thank you. Wow, thank you all for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your days to be here. I come from California, Los Angeles specifically. I've been a liberal, progressive Democrat my entire life. I believe that those values held strong, and I lived in California because that meant something to me, that we would protect our environment, our water, and things like that. And then I came upon SB 277. I watched a law in California that set out to remove parental rights, the right to decide what's injected into my child. And the moment that happened, it actually happened when I was producing the daytime talk show, The Doctors, where I worked. I was actually asked to come backstage. I had a segment in my show that was missing. And they said, we're going to put a segment in your show, come over to the stage and watch it so you know what's going to go into your show. And I walked over, and it was Senator Richard Pan on our show selling SB 277, this great law that would override the rights of parents and force vaccinate all children that wanted to go to school, something that is a right of everyone in this nation. And I thought in that moment, that is the end of freedom. That, in my mind, is the end of the United States of America. It didn't matter what my values around vaccines were. I could not imagine an intelligent nation deciding that they would allow the state, the government, to inject their children with whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want. I mean, have we forgotten our history books? Have we read about other nations that lived like that and gave that type of power to the government? You know, I said a year ago, there were people that thought Hillary Clinton was the most dangerous human being on the face of the planet. And there were people that thought that Donald Trump was the most dangerous person that could lead this nation on the face of the planet. But wherever you stand, one of those people was going to be holding the syringe injected into your child. That's why you never make a choice like that in a free nation. Because the only way you stay in control of your nation in control of your nation is by holding on to your rights as an individual, the very rights that our founding fathers fought to establish for us. We ran from a tyranny of government. We ran from a tyranny of industry. And we now find ourselves living in a time where our government is kowtowing to the tyranny of industry. At this very moment, the pharmaceutical industry is the most powerful lobby in Washington. They are outspending oil and gas 2 to 1. And what I ask people, and what I ask all of the media out there, what do we think that lobby is doing in Washington? Have we ever watched a lobby fight for the safety of citizens, fight for the health of people? Lobbies of that size for industries that make billions, sometimes trillions of dollars, always appear to be there for one reason: to make more money. This is not a conspiracy theory. The pharmaceutical industry says this to our face. We all just watched a couple of weeks ago when they jacked up the price of an EpiPen 10 times what it used to cost. And the Congress calls them before the Congress, and they bring them in and they ask them, how could you do that? And the pharmaceutical industry says to the world, oh, you've made a mistake. We are not here for the citizens. We are not here for that child having an anaphylaxis reaction. We are here for our stockholders. And that is why we are going to raise the price of the EpiPen, and there is nothing you're going to do about it because we answer to our stockholders and our stockholders alone. They're allowed to think like that. They are an industry. They are there to make money. I do not want to take that away from them, but I need a government to always protect me so that I have a choice to decide whether I think the products that company, that industry are making are safe for me and safe for my child. This is not a decision that should be made for me. This is my decision. This is my child. You have a law that's trying to be passed now, just like SB 277 in California. It will take away your rights as intelligent citizens in the United States of America to make your own decision, to do your own investigation, and come to a conclusion. That is not right. That is not the United States of America. And I am here to say we need to stand up now. I know that the people and the doctors that bring forward laws like this, attempting to take away parental rights because they know what's better for us, and they believe the state makes better decisions than we do as parents. I know they think that's the way it should work, but I don't believe it is for many reasons. Because we as a nation have always thrived with original idea. We have always thrived because we break the mold. We step outside of the box. We don't stand inside of tyranny. We don't stand inside of communism. We stand in our greatness as individuals, as our ability to discover and think and thrive and fight and win because we are the greatest nation in the world of individuals. I also know, because as a medical journalist, I investigated the story of Dr. William Thompson. I came from a television show that constantly said vaccines are safe, vaccines are effective. But then I ran into the story of Dr. William Thompson. and I investigated that story as thoroughly as anything I have ever investigated in my life. We have a top scientist from the Centers for Disease Control, the most important health agency in the world, coming forward and saying that 5 scientists, myself and 4 others, were asked by the government of the United States to investigate the MMR vaccine and see if it was causing autism. The moment, this is the guy crunching the numbers, the moment I started running the data on a study that was supposed to be totally transparent to the American public, was only supposed to take 6 months. The moment I started running the data, I immediately saw that we had a problem. African American children were 2.64 times more likely to develop autism if they got the vaccine between 12 and 18 months versus if we waited till after 3 years old. It was called a timing study. The hypothesis being questioned was, is the earlier we receive this vaccine making children more likely to develop autism? That's what they saw. And that's what Thompson saw. And then they realized, well, we know autism is worse in boys than girls. So if this data is accurate, we will actually see African American boys at a higher rate. And so they ran those numbers. And it's exactly what they found. African American boys were 3.56 times more likely to develop autism if they received the vaccine between 12 and 18 months versus waiting till after 3 years old. Well, immediately Thompson tells us we were in a panic. We started manipulating data, changing data tables, changing the age groups, trying to do anything we could do to get rid of this very, very bad effect. They looked at one more group. This is the group that many of the parents in this audience represent. This is the story we hear from hundreds of thousands of parents around the world. My child received the MMR vaccine, and later that night or the next day had seizures, had a fever, lost the ability to walk, lost the ability to talk, lost the development they'd had up until that point. And so they investigated, how would we see that in this demographic study? And they came up with something called isolated autism. What this meant was it wasn't an isolated incidence of autism. It was isolating autism out. They took the 3,000 kids in the study and said, let's look at the children that were perfectly healthy for the first year of life. Did not have palsy, didn't have seizures, didn't have blindness, no other issues, were perfectly healthy. What happened at the moment they got the vaccine? And what Thompson tells us they discovered was that children of all races that were perfectly healthy for the first year of life were up to 7 times more likely to develop autism if they received the MMR vaccine on the CDC schedule versus after 3 years old. That is an astronomical effect. That is every healthy child in the world. And that was never brought to the American public or anyone, any citizen in the world receiving the MMR vaccine. Because Thompson tells us, instead of 6 months, we then spent 4 years behind closed doors, manipulating the data every way we could, cutting the study group in half, which is clear scientific fraud, readjusting a study after it's proving things you didn't want to see. And then lastly, he told a sitting congressman, Bill Posey, we dragged a garbage can into the middle of the room and we were asked to destroy our data and destroy our hard drives. Luckily, he knew that was a crime and he kept those hard drives and he kept copies of that data in a safe. It's much of what you see in the film Vaxxed. You can get it online at Congressman Bill Posey's office, and you will know when you look at it why Congressman Bill Posey, not Del Bigtree, not Andy Wakefield, and not William Thompson, but a sitting congressman in Bill Posey of Florida stood before the Congress of the United States of America and said, please, please, I beg you, subpoena Dr. William Thompson. The American people are trusting houses of government like this to protect us from the dangers of lies, to protect us from a pharmaceutical industry that tells us they only care about how much money they make. That is what this House is supposed to stand for. Not walking in lockstep with an industry taking over government, giving them free access to our children and our bodies. That is not what a government is supposed to do. What it's supposed to do is subpoena Dr. William Thompson. What it is supposed to do is investigate wherever there is a question about the safety of vaccines, not tell us it's been debunked. Can you imagine if the tobacco whistleblower, we just said, well, that's been debunked and never gave him a day in court? That's what we're doing with vaccines. And while any question hangs in the air about the safety testing of vaccines, at any moment where a top scientist tells us we are committing scientific fraud, in the face of that, we can never pass a law that takes away parental rights to choose. We can never pass a law that forces a possibly defective vaccine on the bodies of our children. Now, Senator Gann, a man I believe intends the best for kids. I do believe he thinks he's protecting children, and so am I. And so is every parent that stands in this room. And Yen will tell the bodies that walk through this great building that we are trying to force vaccines on children beyond the parents' will to protect herd immunity. And I am here to tell you that herd immunity is a myth. Every politician, it's true. Everyone I met with in this building, everyone I meet in every state building across the nation and in the Congress and in the Senate of the United States in Washington, D.C., I say the same thing. The next time you're in front of an audience and you want to question where we are at with herd immunity, you must understand what they're talking about. The CDC says that 95% of a population has to be vaccinated in order to achieve herd immunity. Senator Yen and the CDC and the Pediatric Association are trying to convince us that by vaccinating this 1.5% of children that have asked for some type of exemption, that if we vaccinate that 1.5%, we will have achieved, we will have protected herd immunity. And right now, I will prove to you that that is a lie. Will everyone in this room that has not had a booster shot in the last 10 years, please raise your hand? Will every camera that is here for the media trying to discuss this issue show how many people have not had their booster shots? No vaccine has ever proven to last more than 5 or 10 years. That's why we see 3 and 4 booster shots on almost every vaccine given. And these people, and everyone in the state of Oklahoma, the over 75% of adults that are not currently vaccinated for any of the childhood diseases, you are the greatest problem that immunosuppressed child has. You are, not this 1.5% of unvaccinated or partially vaccinated children. They're going to want to take issue with me on that issue until they admit that I'm right and until they admit that is actually the plan. Because if you're standing there thinking this is only about children, I am here to tell you that the pharmaceutical industry is not in Washington buying your politicians and writing policies because they want 1.5% of the children mandated to their products. They want 320 million people mandated to their products. You can go to the website of Health and Human Services and you will see the agenda of Healthy People 2020, where they lay out a mandated forced vaccine program for every adult in the nation, every single adult by 2020. And they're going to play on your guilt because since you sold your children down the river and you gave up your rights as parents to control what was injected into them, surely you realize that you are not vaccinated too, and that you must be a part of this entire mythological idea the pharmaceutical industry has about herd immunity. Now it's your turn. Line up for your yearly vaccinations. And I want you to ask yourself, are you healthy right now? Do you feel like you need vaccines to get through the day? Do you think you can breathe the microbes and the viruses and that you're surviving okay on this planet because maybe, just maybe, your God created you perfectly, or if you're into science, that evolution has created a perfect body to live on this planet? I've proven to you that herd immunity is a myth, but even if it wasn't, we live in a nation of free people that stand before God, before science, that celebrate their individuality. We are magnificent, not only as a species, but as the greatest nation in the world. We must remember what our founding fathers fought for. They stood in a moment where the very tyranny they tried to run from was coming down upon them from all sides. And in a small room, a small group of people came together and said, it doesn't look good. We're outnumbered by the most powerful force the world has ever seen. It's David and Goliath. But if we do not stand up now, everything we ever dreamed of will be gone, will be lost. And at that point, what is life? What is an oppressed life? What is a nation without choices? What is a nation without freedom? We have all been called into this room because in our DNA, in our blood, are those who fought before us, of our founding fathers that stood for freedom and the dream of the United States of America. And we are going to stand once again, right here, right now, in Oklahoma, in Mississippi, in Los Angeles, in Washington, D.C., all across this nation, we will stand together as free citizens of the United States of America, never again to let the tyranny of industry take from us what we have fought for, because we are the greatest nation on earth, and we are the greatest citizens on earth, and we are the greatest minds the world has ever seen, and no state, no government, no industry will ever take that from us. Thank you, and God bless the United States of America.
The ability to be able to refuse. How can you have informed consent if you cannot refuse? And we have today some champions here at the Oklahoma State Capitol who are writing legislation to provide more protective legislation for parents, more informed consent, and more knowledge of vaccine law. So first I'd like to introduce you to Dr. and Representative Mike Ritze. Dr. Ritze is the health chair of public health in the House side, and he represents House District 80.
Thank you all very much. I am Mike Ritze. I represent South Tulsa County, Broken Arrow, Bixby area. I am chairman of the Public Health Committee, and I'm just here to tell you briefly that government does not trump parents' rights. I'm a veteran, and I have fought for this right to protect the parents and the people of our state and our country. I have 2 great-grandfathers that were in the American Revolution, and all the way back we stand very strongly against anything that tramples on the parental rights. As a physician, the oath that I take is do no harm. As the chairman of the Public Health Committee, Senator Yin, all due respects, bill is dead on arrival. Now, my wife is an RN. She's got so many degrees I can't talk about them. But anyway, she and I are expecting our first grandbaby next month. And our daughter is an anesthesiologist, and our son-in-law is a pulmonary fellow at the University of Arkansas. And we have told them that their rights do not trump anybody's rights, and you watch what they give your little baby, and you approve it before anybody touches your baby. By the way, that daughter that's an anesthesiologist and one other daughter that is in law, and our son's a highway patrolman in Broken Arrow, they were homeschooled, and we didn't give them all the vaccines until they got a little older. It was a little bit safer, but they didn't get them all, the 50-some recommended 30 years ago. So I'm here to tell you today, don't give up the fight. You're in a house that changes sometimes on a coin, so you make sure you tell your doctors, you tell your legislators that government does not trump your parental rights. I've delivered over 2,000 babies, and we gave the parents the choice when we administered vaccines that they wanted to do that, but we made sure that they were darn self-informed. And that's what you have to do, is constantly retool. Education is, the repetition is the essence of learning. So over and over again, make sure you know what's going on before it goes into your precious body. God bless you. Have a good day.
Dahm is. For those of you that don't know Senator Nathan Dahm, he ran the first ever informed consent bill in this nation last year. Senator Dahm represents Senate District 33, Broken Arrow. Please give him a big round of applause.
It's great to have you all here with us today. It's an honor to be with you. It's an honor to serve with you and for you. As I was thinking about what I was going to say today, I thought about the Declaration of Independence. Let me do that. Is that better? All right. As I was thinking about what I wanted to say to you this morning, I was thinking about the Declaration of Independence. And in that document, which is essentially the birthright of America, it is our founding document, it says that these rights are self-evident. Right? It says they're self-evident, or at least they should be, because parental rights should be self-evident, shouldn't they? Shouldn't it be self-evident that you have the right to determine your health outcomes? That should be self-evident. Most people would agree with that. Unfortunately, there's some people who their self-importance is more important than self-evident rights. And they are working to take away your rights. As parents, as grandparents, they are working to take away the rights that you should hold dear and that you are all here to fight for. And I'm honored to stand with you and fight with you for that. Yes, the Declaration does not say that parental rights is one of those rights, but it lists several rights, and it says, among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And within those enumerated rights, we do have also those other rights that include parental rights, the rights to self-decision, to choose. One concern that I have with all of this is those who are trying to force our participation in something that we might not agree with. And what we have to take into consideration as well is that there is a movement to overtake the entire healthcare establishment in this country, to where the government is controlling healthcare. If the government is controlling healthcare and the government is mandating what health outcomes you have or what health options you have, the government controls your life. And that's wrong. That is not the government's responsibility. Each of you are individuals. Each of you are individuals with God-given rights that it is our job to protect. The Declaration goes on and says that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. You are here today to no longer consent to the government trying to take away your rights. Fortunately, in our Constitution, we still have the right to petition our government. And that's what you are exercising here today. You are exercising one of your rights to try to protect another. I'm honored to stand with you. I filed several pieces of legislation, and we're going to continue to work through the process that we hopefully will get something else accomplished this year that will not be vetoed. And if it is, that we'll be able to sustain a veto. But in order to do that, you all need to consistently stay engaged. It's great to have you out at this rally, but it doesn't end here. It doesn't end until the end of May. Until session is out, we have something accomplished. And even after that, there's always going to be people that are going to attack our rights. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. So you must remain eternal vigilance. Thank you for everything. God bless you all. Have a good day. Thank you.
Okay, Senator Joseph Silk is another liberty-loving freedom fighter that we endorsed in the last election. Do you guys remember when he debated Senator Yen on the Senate floor about the lack of liability? Well, he's here today and he represents Senate District 5, and he is also running protective legislation. Please welcome him.
Good to be here today. I know everybody's ready for lunch, so I'll be really brief. My wife and all my 6 kids are here, so they're hungry also. But, great turnout. We know we're all here because in the state of Oklahoma, we do have Senate Bill 83 by Irvin Yen, who is attempting to remove the personal exemption, which we've already discussed. I just want you to let you know you do have friends who understand individual liberty and that right. And we've heard from a lot of them. We're here. We're going to fight for you. We're going to fight with you guys. Myself, like Senator Dahm, has filed legislation we're not only going to fight against Senate Bill 83, but we're also going to try to take it a step farther with further legislation. My Senate Bill 831 prohibits schools from keeping healthy kids out of school just because they're not vaccinated. And it also mandates that in Oklahoma, the MMR vaccine cannot be administered as one shot. It has to be split up. So keep up the fight. We're going to keep it up. I had a very long discussion with Senator Ian yesterday. We don't really see eye to eye, apparently. He did tell me that he believes the government has a constitutional right to force vaccinations. I asked him to point to where he found that, and I got a blank stare. So he's probably still looking for it. He'll continue to look for it because it's not there. Keep fighting the establishment. When you do it, when you fight the establishment and you're essentially fighting pharmaceutical companies, you all know, you've all felt the pushback, but we've got to keep doing it because there's nothing more important than religious liberties and individual liberties. Thank you guys very much.
Representative Tom Gann was recently elected to represent House District 8, and we also endorsed him. And oddly enough, he was running against a doctor that was for forced vaccinations. And aren't you glad today that he won that? Please welcome Representative Tom Gann.
everybody. It is a pleasure to be here, and I thank you. And it's an honor to be able to carry the informed consent bill in the House. This is House Bill 1386. And as we all know, last session, the similar bill, House Bill 3016, was passed by both houses in the Senate, and yet was vetoed by the governor. And it was vetoed out of her concerns for providing additional information to the parents' rights to discourage them from vaccinating their child because of additional information might be incomprehensible and to the average consumer. That's a little insulting to me. The veto also stated that providing information to the consumer without proper context, without adequate explanation, may be confusing and intimidating, resulting in a drop in vaccine rates. That's a conversation to be had between you and your doctor, and that there again, that's a little insulting. So it defies common sense to me that parents would be more willing to vaccinate their children in ignorance and fear than to vaccinate knowing exactly what's being injected into their children. Informed consent is foundational to the patient and doctor relationship, healthcare provider relationship. Case law is well established that you have to give your consent before any healthcare provider does anything to you. So I'd hope that upon the passage of this legislation that the governor will not veto but sign it into law this time, and if not, if she does veto, that we override the veto in the House. I'd also like to say I did pick up a co-sponsor. I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Dale Derby from Owasso. He's going to co-sponsor. Thank you all for being here, and I appreciate your time.
All right, before we start breaking up into teams and going upstairs to visit our legislators, I also want to give a shout out to Representative Kevin McDougal there. Thank you for coming. Okay. All right, so at this time, we're going to do the most important work. Oh, shout out to Senator Anastasia Pittman. Senator was also at the Vaxxed screening last night, and let me say that even though Vaxxed has come to Oklahoma in the summer and was here for 2 and 3 weeks, we had over 400 people, packed house at Fairview Baptist Church, Q&A for over an hour. And what documentary is almost a year old that still packs houses like this? Only this movie, because it is the most incredible movie of our time. So if I could right now have all of our doctors, nurses, health professionals to come up and line up here, please. And plus we want the media to see how many doctors and nurses and health professionals support us. Okay, these are going to be our team, some of our team leaders, and Okay, also, our autism moms that I've talked to, that you've been researching, and you have about as much research and background as these doctors up here, you come up too as our team leaders. Okay? And while everybody's coming up, I want to introduce Senator Anastasia Pittman. She's got a few words too.
Helping me. I'm a little taller now. I just want to say I'm so honored to have this many faces in the Capitol on one subject. This is how you do it. This is your house. It is your tax dollars that pay for health care. And as you heard Dr. Ritze, we call him Representative Ritze when he's here. But one of the things I want to assure you, as I serve as a member on the Health Committee, is that I want you to know we do have a commitment to parental rights. So I want you to say with me 3 words, and it's just choose parental rights. And then that way, if you have people who are wanting vaccinations, they can do that. But those who want to homeschool or don't want vaccinations, they can do that. Those who advocate for vaccinations being spread out, but I just need you to make some noise, and I'm going to show you how to do it because your voices are rising to the top. We have elected officials in the building, we have lobbyists in the building, and we also have chairmen in the building. So we want you to know that by your presence and by you being here is saying that you represent the voices of those who could not be here today, or you represent the voices of the victims, as we like to say. So one of the things, I just want you to take a moment, because it only takes 1 minute to make a different life-changing decision. So for 60 seconds, I don't know how you celebrate, so you may have to spread out. Sometimes people beat on chairs and tables. Sometimes people stomp their fists. I've learned how to hoop. I've learned how to raise the roof. So all I'm sharing with you is the energy for you to keep forth and go forward, because we don't know how these things turn out. And without your presence and without you being here saying this matters to you, that health matters to you, and that education matters, because we do know the trend has not flatlined. It's still streaming upward. So 20 years from now, we'll have a population that we're going to need more resources, more dollars, and more taxpayers are going to have to pay attention to. So I'm going to say to you 3 words, and that's choose parental rights. And that's what you will ask your legislators to do when you go see them, to advocate for what you want, okay? And then that way, as government, as we say we want less government, we don't need to be in the doctor's office with you. We don't need to be in your bedroom with you. We're not in the school classroom with you. So I want you to raise your children the way you want to raise your children. So let's get busy. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, scream! Making people uncomfortable because they're closing their doors and they can't get any work done. You've got their attention. Amen. And so now we're going to say, choose parental rights. Choose parental rights. Choose parental